How's it going, everyone? I'm Moonfixer, and I want to give my thoughts on the new Fallout TV show. With Fallout being out for a little while now, I figured that I would give my thoughts on it. I will start with a spoiler-free review before diving deeper into the show, including spoilers as I go into more detail on my thoughts on various topics. The Fallout TV show does a great job overall in adapting the game world to a TV format. Those who are unfamiliar with the Fallout games can expect to see a great show set in a post-apocalyptic world with plenty of little nuances that separate it from other media in a similar setting. Those who are familiar with the games can expect to see many things they recognize from the games. However, a few of those things that fans of the games will recognize have been changed a bit. While this does not kill the show in my opinion, I'm sure veterans of the games will see a few moments where the show could have separated itself from other post-apocalyptic media by being a little bit more faithful to the source material. That being said, the characters in the show are all very well done for the most part, and the story is compelling with twists and turns that seem earned and do not appear to come out of left field. Overall, despite a few departures from the games and a couple of very odd dialogue choices, Fallout is a great series well worth a watch. Now I'll get into spoilers. If you haven't seen a TV show and you care about spoilers, this is the time where you may want to turn away. Thank you for your time. As I mentioned before, Fallout is an amazing adaptation from the games. That being said, I did have a few issues. I'll go ahead and list them now. While the Ghoul is an overall great character, the one major thing that bothered me about him is his voice. Ghouls in the Fallout franchise have gravelly voices that tend to stand out from other characters. The Ghoul's voice in this show is too much like a regular human. I was going to make a comment about how his eyes also look too human, but after taking some time to refresh myself on ghouls, I realized that some ghouls have blacked out eyes and some look more like Cooper's. Another issue I had with the TV show comes from a certain piece of dialogue.
You mean use my cock?
No, I mean use your words better. The sex talk between Maximus and Lucy comes off as very juvenile, especially from Maximus. That being said, I understand why it's there. We have to remember that Max is from the Brotherhood of Steel, where he wouldn't be exposed to people outside of the faction. Therefore, he wouldn't really know how to talk to them, especially in a sexual or romantic fashion. It still doesn't make the dialogue any less terrible or cringy, if you will. The power armor in the series is mostly represented very well, except for a couple instances. Those are the helmet and the arm jets. While both issues are hand-waved in the TV show by strongly implying that people upgrade and edit their own pieces of armor, it still stood out to me. The faceplate flipping outward stood out to me, as we can see here. It's supposed to be one piece, as you can see in the game. Another issue is the arm jets used for flying. Earlier I mentioned that there were things that could have been done to further differentiate this from other post-apocalyptic media, and this is one of the things I was talking about. In the game, specifically Fallouts 4 and 76, the power armor uses a jetpack to gain flight. This is important because this way a soldier can shoot while flying, unlike the TV show version where the hands are occupied during flight. It also makes the power armor look reminiscent to Iron Man. While Iron Man's jets come out of his hands and the power armor comes out from around the forearm area, in practice they are extremely similar. In addition to being a bit more practical, I believe that the jetpack would make the power armor and Fallout look more unique from other similar looking things in TV shows. So with the cons out the way, I want to talk about what I liked. The characters, as I mentioned before, are great for the most part. Let's start with Cooper, the ghoul. He reminds me a lot of Dean Domino from the Fallout New Vegas DLC Dead Money. Both characters are from before the war. Both characters are ghouls. Both characters are driven by something to the point they're willing to do whatever it takes to get what they want. Cooper for finding his family, and Dean for getting revenge on Fred Sinclair for the assumption that he thought he was better than him. In fact, as dark as the deeds that Cooper does is, he can be seen as a less vile character than Dean. After all, Cooper is looking for his family, and Dean is trying to stick it to a man who had the audacity to bounce back from hardship. While the show introduces new lore surrounding how ghouls don't go feral through the use of a drug, I didn't really mind this. I'd feel that the Fallout universe has a loose enough lore surrounding the ghouls where it can allow for it. However, it does raise questions as to why it was so readily available before the ghouls even existed, before the war. Though, I've heard interesting possibilities from other people in the community regarding the possibility of this drug being something that people have concocted and mixed together for this purpose. Lucy is a great character overall as well. I love how the show expertly toes the line between naive vault dweller put into the wasteland and a capable person who can fend for herself. I also like that the show had the courage to allow Lucy to get into dire circumstances and not come out without a scratch. The scene where Cooper uses her as bait and the scene with the Mr. Handy comes to mind. I feel that Lucy fits right in with other Fallout protagonists, especially those who come from out Vault. One of my favorite scenes in the series is the way Lucy knows her new husband is a raider. The tension involved in her grabbing her pit boy and then hearing the Geiger counter go off when she pointed it at him show the viewer what they need to know without being too heavy-handed, even if she states it immediately afterwards. Maximus is another great character. I love how he shines a light on the day-to-day life in the Brotherhood. The show makes great pains to paint him as a troubled character who struggles with the realities of being a hero. There are several scenes where the actor playing Maximus really sells the fact that he's struggling between doing the right thing and improving his status in the Brotherhood of Steel. His disillusionment from his first impression of the Brotherhood of Steel, where he was presumably rescued from the bombing of Shady Sands, to how Knight Titus treated him, to how he sees the elders of the Brotherhood chapter operate is a treat to see. Speaking of the Brotherhood of Steel, I like how they're portrayed here. Like many Fallout fans, I was concerned going in that the Fallout TV show would paint the Brotherhood as a saccharine good guy faction, similar to how they were portrayed in Fallout 3. Thankfully, this isn't the case. This show portrays the Brotherhood of Steel closer to how they were portrayed in the other Fallout games. The Brotherhood of Steel is a complex faction because they aren't inherently good or evil, per se. Before the bombs drop, they start off with good intentions when their founder realized that the government were doing sick experiments on citizens at the Mariposa military base in Fallout 1. From that, Captain Maxon, founder of the Brotherhood of Steel, seceded from the Union and vowed to never allow technology to fall into the wrong hands. Fast forward to after the bombs drop, and the Brotherhood of Steel basically still does the same thing, at the cost of anyone who has the technology they're trying to take without regard to whether their intentions are good or bad. This leads to innocent people having to deal with them trying to take what's theirs. Furthermore, the juxtaposition between the Brotherhood of Steel having high-tech power armor suits, vertibirds, airships, and all that, but still lighting their interiors with candles and then using outhouses and outdoor toilets was a very interesting touch. The action in the series was well done for the most part. The combat looked decently choreographed, and the effects are also pretty good. I especially like the Mr. Handy. The Gulper look cool as well, even if the design varies greatly from the game, such as the Far Harbor DLC in Fallout 4 and in Fallout 76. Before I saw the series, I was curious as to how the weapons were going to be handled. More specifically, would they show the weapons that we've seen before in the games or make up new ones? I'm happy to say they did both. The laser pistol, laser rifle, 10mm pistol, and the Fallout 4 assault rifle are recreated beautifully amongst other weapons. They even added new weapons like the tranquilizer pistol Lucy uses. As I continue to explore the Fallout world in Season 2, I look forward to them seeing them adding new weapons, preferably energy weapons. The story is quite good overall, however, considering how often the main characters run into each other, it can make the world seem kinda small. That being said, the story is still very solid. The reveal of the experiments in Vault 4, involving hybridizing humans with other species, leading to a woman giving birth to Gulpers and then being eaten alive by them. I've seen people in the community complaining that this scene was just added for shock value. I don't know if they played the games and know about the reputation of Vault Tech. As brutal and abhorrent as this scene was, it fits right in with the awful experiments we've come to expect from Vault Tech, in my opinion. Speaking of Vault Tech, the pre-war relationship between Coop and his wife was done very well. Before too much is revealed, they nailed the vibe of a loving couple who still have their issues. His wife working in with Vault-Tec, Coop eventually breaks down and spies on his wife at the behest of Maldiver, who was also alive before the war. Then he overhears a meeting with all the big names of Fallout veterans will know, such as Mr. House, Frederick Sinclair, and the CEOs of WestTech and Repcon. This is where one of the more controversial events take place, as it is revealed that Vault-Tec planned to drop the bomb. I say plan to because we don't see them actually launch the bomb, but it's very clear that they wanted to. One big thing that I noticed during the scene was where the people at the meeting start spitballing ideas for the experiments they were going to do in their vaults. It was crazy to me that several of the more well-known vault experiments that we've seen in the games from Fallout 1, 2, 3, 4, New Vegas, all that, just were spitballed ideas that was like the first thing that popped into their heads. It's wild to think of how it affected so many lives based on the first thing that just came to them. There's a lot more story here, but the last thing I want to talk about is the infamous timeline issue. In a school inside Fallout Vault 4, Lucy sees a timeline. The timeline goes through several dates that fans of Fallouts, especially 1 and 2, will definitely recognize regarding the history of the NCR. The problem happens is when it gets to the fall of Shady Sands in 2277, which takes place before the events of Fallout New Vegas. The timeline's arrow extends to point to an explosion afterwards, which is why, as the show shows us, Shady Sands is now a crater. The thing is, several people thought this meant that the explosion took place in 2277. However, the arrow continues after this date. To be fair, I think that while fall has been used to describe something more akin to a decline, it would have been much more clear to have used the word decline. Todd Howard recently did an interview clearing this up, confirming that New Vegas is indeed still canon. Season 1 of Fallout was a great watch and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Despite the few issues I had with it, I can't wait to see Season 2. Thanks for your time. Take care of yourselves.